Okay, so today we do part number 2 of Things My Mother Taught Me, the Teen Years and Beyond. And I love this graphic that Dwight made for me, except I do need to say that number 2 was not actually something my mom wanted her, at least little kids, to do, and I'll tell you why. She told me this story. Because when I had little kids and tried to stop them from picking their nose, she's like, don't do that, and this is why. When she was a young mother, she was in the store, and she was telling her kids, don't pick your nose. And another mother who was a little older came up to her and she said, do not tell them that. Don't let them not, because they're just clearing their airway passages so they can breathe better. I think there are better ways to do it. But I almost wanted to cross out, don't. At least, at a certain point you should grow out of that. But for at least like toddlers, don't. But that's neither here nor there. That's not part of the message. You're welcome, though. It is now. It is now. So I'm actually going to start by reading. I'm going to read the last. Did we get handouts? Did we get those? Did the comic make it into the back? That I just want you to know that comic epitomizes my relationship with my mom when I was a teenager and maybe into adulthood. We're going to read 1 Corinthians. I'm just going to read the last verse of Corinthians 13. I put the whole thing in here because it all applies and it's all good, but I'm not going to read the whole chapter to you right now. And I've spoken on the chapter pretty recently anyway. But verse 13 is, but now faith, hope, and love abide in these 3, but the greatest of these is love. And then in Matthew 22, teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? And he said to him, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the great and foremost commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments depend the entire law and the prophets. So this, for me, seems so obvious that it borders on the ridiculous, because if you're filling yourself with the Spirit, if you're with the Word, and you're allowing the Spirit to work in you and through you, and you're walking in the faith that you say that you profess, then obviously you're going to be walking in love. Even if it should be the goal to walk in love, but even if you're doing all the other stuff, the byproduct of doing what God says is going to be that you're walking in love. That's where it all heads, right? It's all there. Love is really important. The Corinthians, earlier in there, it talks about it doesn't matter what you can do. It doesn't matter what you can give. It doesn't matter if you give away everything you have and then sacrifice your life on top of that. If you're not doing it for the right reasons, then it is worth nothing, which is quite a statement. And then, in Matthew it says everything, and I was going to have a Bible. I meant someone to get, can I borrow your Bible? Thank you. Everything in here depends upon it. Okay? None of this matters without the love. Because God is love. It's all based on Him. You can have this back. I just needed the prop. Thank you. So, when my mom and my dad were deciding what they were going to do, they had the Fab Five, and they were deciding if they were going to, move into adoption, which is a really big choice because they were not the docile, polite, and angels that they are now, So at that time, it was a much tougher choice. But I'm pretty sure she came to all of us, older kids, and she was like, what do you think? Because there's wisdom in the abundance of counselors. And she said, what should we do? She said, this is a big thing. 5 more kids. And when she asked me, I said, even though it was a difficult question, I said the only thing that I could say, that she had taught me to say, and was that you have to love first. These children needed a home and a family, and God gave them to us, so we are it. And we are going to love whoever God puts in front of us to love, even if that's difficult. I remember one of my mom's best friends, back when she first met her, did not want to be befriended by my mom. My mom tells stories about her throwing stuff at her to get her out of the house and smashing on the wall next to her. Now, at the end, they were really, really close. But she had been put in front to be loved, even though she was not the easiest person to love. Some might say she's still not the easiest person. No, I'm just kidding. Jessica, if you're watching, I love you desperately. But you have to love first, before all other considerations, before convenience, way before hate. Ephesians 6:12, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the powers, against the world forces of this darkness, against the spiritual forces of wickedness in the heavenly places. And then Isaiah, this is part of our power verse, Isaiah, we're going to start in 10. If you give yourself to the hungry, satisfy the desires of the afflicted, then your light will rise in darkness, your gloom will become like midday. The Lord will continually guide you and satisfy your desire in scorched places. Give strength to your bones, and you will be like a watered garden, like a spring of water whose waters do not fail. Which leads me into, she taught me, which is do the big thing, which speaks to the heart of who my mom was and living out her love for people. That's why she did the big thing. Because while she was extremely relational, very gifted at connecting with people on a person-to-person level, she wanted to make life better for the largest number of people possible, right? And that was at the core of everything that she did with Dwight and Drew and music and film and everything. At the core of that was, how can we love the most number of people, move them into the kingdom of heaven, and turn as much of the cosmos as possible into the garden of the kingdom of light, right? Amen. So we make life better, we turn the world into a garden. My natural inclination is to get in my happy little corner of the garden, not take off little bites that are too big. I'm going to stick with my little bits and pretty much just tend the garden that I already have going pretty well. That's a small picture, right? So big picture small picture is not always bad. The details are in the small picture, and the large picture does not exist without the small picture, right? You follow my logic, there cannot be a larger without the smaller pieces to make it up. But if you focus too much on the details, the small stuff, it turns into a bad situation. It's like driving and focusing on bug guts on your windshield and not being able to see the road or the other cars, right? Which will get you into trouble. I look around and all I see are bug guts in my life. We're going to take care of that. But you need to be able to see past those through the worldview that God has given you to see what's actually going on the grander scheme. Cammy is just dying because I keep knocking my mic.
Just pull your mic down a little bit. Pull it down just a little. There you go.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. She almost passed out that last time. I saw it. Not sorry. Matthew 28. And Jesus came up and spoke to them, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go, therefore, make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. Our job, after being assured of our own destiny, is to make sure as many people as possible have their assurance of their destiny too. That's it. That's the job. What God put us here to do. 1 John 5, whoever believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and whoever loves the Father loves the child born of him. By this we know that we love the children of God, when we love God and observe his commandments. For this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments. And actually, I think that's a really good parallel, because I think all of us as parents would be able to say to our children, look, the best way that you can show me that you love me is to listen when I speak. And his commandments are not burdensome, for whatever is born of God overcomes the world, and this is the victory that has overcome the world, our faith. And then John 16:33, these things I have spoken to you so that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take courage, I have overcome the world. So, WWDD, what would Debbie do? Which is a joke, because I know it should always be WWJD, what would Jesus do? However, since my mom was always trying to be more like Jesus, it still tracks. And I've actually changed some of my behaviors based on this reflection. The result is that I procrastinate less, I get more done, and I'm less lazy, which is, again, my natural state. Because we always had this joke with Mom that, if you had to be somewhere in 10 minutes, like you were at the house, you had to be somewhere in 10 minutes, she thought she had time to go to the store and get back before you had to leave. But this is a real thing that really happened, not once. We'd have to be at my grandmother's house in like 20 minutes. Like it's a 20-minute drive to get there. We had to be there in 10 minutes. So we were already 10 minutes late because we hadn't left yet. And she's like, I'm sure I can get to Meyer and back in time for us to leave. I'm like, no, you can't. We should have left 10 minutes ago. But she'd go to the store. And we always got there. But I'm applying to my life now those things in a way that I've never done it before because I'm always thinking about her. So I always think, I just do it. Just do it now instead of waiting because it's going to be unpleasant or I don't want to or for whatever reason. Just do it now. And I've been way more accomplishing just in this past month of my life than ever before as far as things go. But 1 Thessalonians 5, we urge you, brethren, admonish the unruly, encourage the faint-hearted, help the weak, be patient with everyone. See that no one repays another with evil for evil, but always seek after that which is good for one another and for all the people. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Do not quench the Spirit. Do not despise prophetic utterings, but examine everything carefully. Hold fast to that which is good, and abstain from every form of evil. Which leads me to my big point of what my mom taught me, which is we're not done growing yet, right? When I was younger, and I still lived at home, all areas of my life were subject to approval from my mother, as is the way of things. I mistakenly believed that when I was an adult with my own house, my own husband, and my own kids, that I would be in charge of my own life. I'm 30 years old. My mom still decides what I wear and what I don't wear. But despite that, there did come a relationship shift that we went through a few years ago, and it wasn't subtle. The climax of it was this big conversation that we had where I finally said, look, you can be my mother, or you can be my friend, but you can't switch back and forth at will and expect me to think it's the same person. Right? You can't 1 second be my friend and my confidant and then switch and be my mom and expect me to treat you like my friend and confidant the next minute. Because you're one person, not two. And I said, you pick whatever you want, and I'm going to go with that because, love is going to surround every aspect of our relationship, but we can't go forward like we're going right now. And I have had, working with teenagers, and not even just working with teenagers, but having been a teenager myself and observed many, I've seen a lot of unfortunate situations where parents made mistakes when their children were stepping into adulthood, and they go into this either adulthood, or they go into their marriage, or into the self-determination portion of their lives, this transitionary period, and hindsight's 20/20 in retrospect, but I've been very fortunate in that I was able to take those things and apply them to my life, my situation with my mom, and then hopefully apply them with my kids too. But I think it was St. Jerome who said, the scars of others should teach us caution. Right? This situation with my mom was not one of those, fortunately, because out of that conversation came my adult relationship with my mother, wherein she became this mother-friend hybrid. It was a highly satisfying relationship for me and for her. And it's not that she never mothered me. I've already told you, that she still expressed her opinions on things like, everything from my wardrobe to how I raise my children. And she did that in a motherly way, and I honored that because she was my mom. Eventually, if not immediately. But she was able to do it in a way that didn't make me feel less than equal. Does that make sense? He did this switch, this transition from a linear relationship to a parallel relationship with me. I'm not quite sure how she did it, to be honest. I hope to figure it out in the next 10 to 15 years before my kids get to that point. But it's in our human nature. We get into this comfortable groove, and we hang out there, and we stop learning, and we stop growing. We do this tremendous amount of growth through the first, 25 years of our life, and then we seem to think we're done, but we're not. Because, in God's eyes, we're all still kids anyway. But we get into our groove and our stuff that we hang tight to. And when it comes right down to it, life is just too short to stop growing. It's too short to stop learning. We can always get deeper, and we can always get wider, and we should. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Our children are going to do as we do, not as we say. So if we want them to grow, we need to show them how. And that's what my mom did. Shop. All right. You didn't just tell me. She showed me how. And that's how I'm going to close this. Because I can't talk anymore. So I'm going to have the band come on up. We're going to move in. We're going to do a really great song. I know it's been an extremely cathartic song for my dad through this whole process about, life is short. We got to live it well. That means continually growing, continually learning, getting deeper in the spirit, getting deeper in the truth, getting deeper in the word, and as human beings. And that all hinges back on love, Love is deep and love is wide, and that's where we're headed. It all comes full circle, because really, it's all about the love, isn't it? So please rise.
Shake the burdens of my arms, shake the anchors of my lungs, shake me broken, make me one, break the silence and make it song.